In this video, we are going to go over classifying and adding and subtracting polynomials. So the first table here talks about the number of terms. So if you have one term, it's called a monomial. Two terms, it's a binomial. Three terms is a trinomial. And then usually four or more would be considered a polynomial. But then we also have to look at the degree. So degree is the highest exponent or the biggest exponent. So when you have an exponent with the x to the 0, it's considered a constant because really that's a 1. So then in this case, 7 times 1 is just 7, so no variable. Degree of 1 is linear. Highest exponent is 1. Highest exponent 2 would be quadratic. And then the highest exponent of 3 would be cubic. So here the degree of 4 or fourth degree, anything 4 or higher, we just say fourth degree, fifth degree, so on and so forth. So the first thing you want to do is look on the highest exponent. So in this case it's quadratic. And then you want to count how many terms there are. Terms are separated by adding and subtracting. So there are 3 terms, so this is a quadratic trinomial. Now for this slide, I recommend putting all the problems up top first, and then labeling by degree. So this is a highest exponent of 2, so that is called a quadratic. Now there's 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. Tri means 3, nomial means term. So 3 terms. Now the next polynomial has a highest exponent of 3, and we call that cubic. And then it has 4 terms, so we just call that polynomial. 80 has no variable with it, so that is just a constant, a number without a variable. And it is 1 term, so we call that a monomial. Linear, because the exponent's 1, and this is binomial because there's 2 terms. Now, to write in standard form, you want to start with the highest exponent. So we have a positive 2x to the third, and we have a negative 2x to the third. So if we grouped these two together, 2 minus 2 goes away. So they cancel out. We want to go to the next highest exponent. We have a positive 6x squared and a minus 4x squared. So we're going to write that here. And we're going to combine like terms. 6 minus 4 is 2. So then we have 2x squared. After that, we look at the next highest exponent. When we just have an x, that's really x to the first power. So then we have negative 4x, and then plus 3x, which is negative 1x. And then we just have the numbers, a plus 5 and a minus 3. Those are constants. If there are constants, just write them at the last part. So we cannot go any further in simplifying because we have x squared and then we have an x. Those are not alike. They may have the same base, but they have different exponents. So this is technically called a quadratic because the highest exponent's a 2, and then a trinomial because there's 3 terms. Now for subtracting, there are several different ways of doing it. You can line them up vertically, or you can do it horizontal. So I recommend whatever way is best for you. I prefer horizontal, but it's okay if you choose the vertical method. So the only thing that you want to really pay attention to is this negative sign right here. That means the whole parenthesis is being minused. So how we show that in math, we distribute that negative 1. Negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. Squared, sorry, 3x squared. Negative 1 times 5x is negative 5x. And then all the way over, negative times a negative is a positive 8. And then we drop down the 6x squared plus 3x minus 2. The reason why we drop it down is there's nothing before there. So there's nothing to distribute. And then we can combine like terms. Start with the biggest exponent. So we have 6x squared. Then we're taking away 3 of them. So now we have 3x squared. So you do what the sign tells you to. Then we have a positive 3x and a minus 5x. So 3x minus 5x is a negative 2x. And then at the end, since we actually do have constants, negative 2 plus 8 gets you a positive 6. Once again, once we combine all like terms like this, there's no more that we can do. We have an x squared and we have an x. Those are not alike. So this would be a quadratic, highest exponent 2, and then a trinomial because there's 3 terms. Now slide number 7, I'm not going to make a video of because we have the video right here. So if you need a video for slide number 7, please watch slide number 8. Now number 9, slide number 9. We have this plus sign. Since we have that plus sign, we do not need to distribute anything. So I'm just going to rewrite the whole thing without the parentheses. So when you don't have distribution, you can just rewrite it. I personally like rewriting it because then that gives me more space to draw my circles or choose my colors. So start with the highest exponent. We have x squared, so to the power of 2, that's our biggest. And then we have plus 7x squared. So all we're doing is combining. We have 3 plus 7, which is 10. And then you just write down the x squared. Now we have just x's, because it's really just x to the first power. And we have this 2x. So there's really a 1 here. So 1 plus 2 is 3. And then don't forget to drop down the x, because it's really 1x plus 3 x's. And then we have the constants. Negative 2 plus 7. Negative 2 plus 7 is a positive 5. So once again, at this step, that's your final answer. You cannot combine any further because we have an x squared and we have an x, and those are not alike. Now for this one, we want to be careful. We have this negative sign, so we have to distribute. A negative and negative become a positive 7x to the 4th. Negative times a positive is a negative 3x squared. And then a negative times a positive is also a negative 7x. Now there was nothing to distribute for the first parenthesis. So I'm just going to rewrite it. And now we can combine like terms. Once you distribute that negative sign, it's gone. It's already taken up or consumed by the second parenthesis. So then we have negative 6x to the 4th plus 7x to the 4th, which is 1x to the 4th. Next highest exponent is x squared. 8 minus 3 gets you a positive 5. X squared. And notice I'm doing different shapes. I highly recommend it. And then it's negative 4x. So we start with the biggest exponent, go to the next biggest, and then the next biggest. And then backs up your answer. Because you cannot combine anymore. And one thing that I have not been showing, you can simplify, you can check your answer as well. And notice you don't need to put that 1 if you don't want to. All right, this is an adding problem. How do I know that? There's a plus sign. So that means nothing changes. There is no number in front of either parentheses, so I'm just going to rewrite it. Make sure that you rewrite it properly. Okay, now we have x to the third, 4x to the third minus 8x to the third, which is negative 4x to the third. 5x plus 2x, 5 plus 2 is 7. Drop down the x. Negative 6, take away 2 more is actually a negative 8. So that would be cubic, because it's a power of 3, degree of 3. And then it would be a trinomial because there's 3 terms. And then the last problem, we have this negative sign, so we have to distribute. That 4x squared was positive, so now I change it to a negative. Negative and a negative is a positive 2x. And then a negative times a positive is a negative 11. Notice that there is nothing in front of the first parenthesis. I'm just going to rewrite it. And then from there, start with the highest exponent, the biggest exponent. In this case is 2. So negative 8 minus 4 is negative 12. And then drop down the x squared, because all we're doing is combining. Negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. Drop down the x. And then there's nothing that combines with the minus 11, so just write minus 11. And then that will be your final answer. And this would be a quadratic trinomial, because quadratic degree of 2, the exponent is 2, and then there's 3 terms.